long as I can still ride my bike every day, I'll still be recording the police.
Yeah. So have you been deposed before?
I have.
If I've asked a question, you will have to answer that question before we take a break. What high school did you attend? Where's that? How many years did you attend? Continue your education in any respect? And what trade was that for? Are you currently employed? Are you referring to the kind of video that brings us here today? Do you have any sort of monetary gain from posting those YouTube videos? Do you have any other kind of job?
We were going to work shit out. I had a meeting with them after the Alfonso Cerda thing that I published that, and then I faced all kinds of retaliation. And one of the first arrests after that, I ended up being in jail for 4 days, missing, and I missed the arbitration thing. This little meeting. My girlfriend was supposed to be the mediator, and we were going to just, come to some agreement. But I didn't show up because I was in jail. And also on Monday morning, I had consolidated all my false citations from all these years of recording. They wouldn't let me put these things on the same date, and then I finally had them all on the same day. My mediation is on the weekend. Dozen false citations that I have to show up for, fighting all of them at one time, like convenient, instead of having to go every day for months. They're all on the same day. But instead, I was in jail. So by the time I got out of jail, now my boss is not paying me my money. All those tickets that were scheduled for this on Monday morning, every single one of them went as like a failure to appear. So now I have a dozen warrants for my arrest, and now that means I'm going to have to try to get them to reschedule them all in the same morning again, which they're not going to do. I was just like, I think that's when I quit going to court. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? They can arrest me if they want me to go to court. In the meantime, I'll be recording the police. And I did. That's what I did.
Do you have any other source of income to sort of sustain your life outside of these videos? Mr. Solomon, when we left off, you were describing that you make approximately $200 to $300 a month posting YouTube videos like the video we're here to discuss today involving the plaintiff. Is that right? For how long have you been monetizing these sorts of videos through YouTube? And during that period of time, has this been your only source of income, or have you had other employment? And where do you live, Mr. Solomon?
See the roof? Right there, see there's a big hole in the roof? It was literally 11 years exactly, the anniversary to when Alfonso Cerda was run over and killed. I was upstairs in that bathroom urinating. It sounded like they were canceling the call. It's called Thank You for Your Role, and that's going to be significant in this video later, so just remember that. Thank you for your role. If there's an outstanding weapon and you can't find it, the helicopter can find it from the air. Remember that. It's called the article search. Maybe someone could argue that there could be times when someone says thank you for your role and it wasn't fake. But when they say thank you for your role before you attempt to search for the article, then there's no questioning that. That means there's nothing outstanding. And unless the guys on the ground just found it and picked it up, then there never was anything outstanding. The sheriff still tried to claim that he reached for a weapon or something, but there was no weapon found. They didn't search for a weapon. In other words, they lied about him reaching for anything.
How is it that you're able to sustain a livelihood on just these YouTube videos?
You can see there's holes in the floor, right? See that? All the way around the whole edge of the floor, there's holes. So like rodents could come in and out. When I was living here, there wasn't really rodents inside occasionally, but not like living in here like there is now. That's where the magic used to happen. Helped innocent victims recover multi-million-dollar lawsuits. This is where I slept, right here.
But during that period of time, you've never had any other employment, is that right?
Yeah, I haven't had any other employment since about 2012. That's where I would sleep. I never once went up to the front and said, I have to go to the bathroom. Could you guys, invest in a plumber and get me a toilet so I could use the bathroom? It didn't matter what the problem was back here. I didn't involve them because so long as I could still ride my bicycle, then I could still go record the police. When I was living here, I could afford to go record the police every day. And all these years later, to me, That's still all that is important. The water, the faucet is still dripping, so I was paying for water that, you know, for someone that's still concerned with $500, you know, he's got money running out the pipes. There's electricity in here. He hasn't even bothered to come back here and make sure everything's off. You love me for exactly who I am. And I hope you always know. Anyway, so apparently Al took it upon himself. If it was going to cost him 1 penny of money that wasn't his in the first place, wasn't his to save or spend or not spend, it's not important to have a Tom Seaver around here recording the police. There's no purpose for that. What matters is, if I don't get that fucking penny that's not mine in the first place, then we're not having it. What would have been more appropriate was for me to sit here and have the rain fall on my head and ruin decades worth of my hard work that Al would have never done, that no other person in this community would have done in their life or under any circumstances.
Before we went off the record, you mentioned that you do this sort of thing full time. And by this sort of thing, I'll be specific. Listen to the radio scanner, appear at live scenes, and videotape and post videos of police interactions with the public.
Christopher Bailey, in this one case alone, you know, he's at 4.7 million. He doesn't owe me a thing for doing that. That's why I'm doing this type of work. That's what I do full time, Ms. Weiss. Helping people that nobody else would help. When Christopher Bailey heard my voice, heard me yelling in his defense at the police, I can only imagine at that second how alone, he was completely alone in the whole world. The only people around him are more interested in killing him than helping him. I can't think of a more appropriate time for a stranger to lend a helping hand. There is no more important or critical time than that. Tens of thousands of times I'm on the street showing up as you know, they're pulling people out of the cars. We don't know how many times the police were going to falsely arrest or beat up or kill or frame. The work that I do, it has a huge impact on the strangers' lives that are lucky enough to have me show up at a time when they were having seriously bad luck. I do my work in specific neighborhoods where I know that the police in these neighborhoods are causing huge problems for the communities they're supposed to serve. It's just very frustrating for me to be in a position where I'm desperate and in need. And like, she's asked important questions. She doesn't believe that I don't have another job. She doesn't believe me that I don't make money. I don't know what the fuck she thinks. I'm secretly rich, you know, ride a bicycle around town and I bury all my money in the backyard. These questions could not be asked of me at a more appropriate time where my answers are crucial in my ability to continue cop watching. At this point, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. I never really asked for assistance or help. Or years ago, people would say, oh, keep me on the road, you know, and like have a PayPal and all this stuff. And most of what they were doing was bullshit. Of course, I want to try to entertain you if I can, but it's about saving people that are in a desperate situation. When the police do something shitty to you, the rest of the government is on their side. The best situation is to walk away before you're injured or arrested. And I've helped tens of thousands of people to do that. I want to continue to do that. A regular landlord is not going to rent to me. It's going to have to be somebody who enjoys or appreciates the work that I do, and they just happen to have a space. It has to be big enough for me to put a computer, to put a bicycle, and I have to be able to get in and out of the place to go where the police are going when there's calls on the radio. But Ms. Weiss needs to learn to shut the fuck up. When you ask me a question and I answer it, that's because what I'm saying is the truth. If you try to second and third guess me and fourth guess me with additional questions, then you're going to get a bunch of videos in your face that prove what I said in the first place. Ms. Weiss, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, so please quit pretending you do. I've been recording the police since 2000, okay? YouTube was invented in 2006. I had been recording the police for 12 years before I created a channel and decided I was going to try uploading some of these videos to the internet. I didn't enable ads on my videos until 2016. But the conversation should have ended when I told her that I make $200 to $300 a month If minimum wage is $32,000 and I make $4,000, that means my decision to record the police cost me a minimum of $28,000 a year, and that's before you factor in the false citation, the false arrest, the days in court, the days of being harassed by a piece of shit like Olivia Weiss. And it's an interesting time for me. In 23 years of cop watching, I'm literally homeless right now.
How did you first learn of the incident that we're here discussing today involving the plaintiff, Mr. Bailey? What is the scanner app? And how often currently do you listen to the radio scanner? And for approximately how many hours do you listen to the scanner app? And approximately how much time a week do you spend riding your bicycle looking for police and civilian encounters? 5 to 6 hours a day, a few days a week, or would you say more or less? And are you usually doing this at night or during the day? What's more common? Generally, what hours in the night are you out riding and recording? What would you describe as the wee hours? And you'll ride around for 5 or 6 hours starting at those hours. Why do you do what you do?
Protect members of my community and to try to keep everybody honest.
What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate?
What can you say about people who pull you over for no reason, bash your eyeballs out of your head with flashlights, and kick your teeth out of your face with a boot, and then leave you in the street for dead and go take selfies and drink water and take pictures with Christopher's blood and act like you're the injured party? Even though you've cleared fire to come in, you're gonna leave them 500 yards away. We're gonna have 3 guys put their weight on Christopher's back. What do you think the point of that was? Why didn't they let fire come in and rescue him? Why were 3 guys on his back? Do you think they were trying to save $5 million? Is that what they were doing, do you think? Because when I ran down the sidewalk and said, "Leave him alone, motherfucker," they didn't get off of his back, and he woke up. And he asked the cops, he said, "Could you roll me over?" Immediately, when I repeated what Christopher said to them, apparently in their minds they thought the gig is up. Daniel not only did Christopher say that shit, but Daniel just shouted it at the top of his lungs from like 20 yards behind us. He can't see us right now. He can't see Christopher, but he heard what Christopher said. It's like, it's time to start flashing your flashlight at the fire truck and tell them to get their asses over here, and they better hurry up and save this guy's life, because otherwise you guys got explaining to do. Miss Weiss is going to spend the next hour explaining how I'm a piece of shit for saying bad words. Talking down to me after I saved Christopher's life. I can't believe this bitch has the nerve. Does she not know that you guys are going to watch this? I mean, I know it's her job. Her job is to try to cheat Christopher Bailey out of his doctor bills. What kind of job is that? You go to college for that, to be a liar? So did I answer your question, Miss Weiss? Why do I do what I do? Because I have integrity, I have a heart. I know you do your job for money. Here's what's crazy, okay? I'm the prosecutor here. I'm the good guy. I caught the bad guys. She's taking the position of the guilty cops. Why does she get to question me about where did I go to school, blah, 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 all these things? And we don't even get to hear the depositions from the dirty cops, the criminals. I can show you their faces and tell you all about them. But why is my deposition, my income, the fact that I don't have an income, that I live in a fucking shack, that I've been working 23 years and living in poverty? I'm the witness. Why does the witness have to say where he's going to be, at what time, and what color is his bike, what's his schedule? I thought there's supposed to be witness protection, not set the witness up to get killed by the dirty cops. But the police don't even, they don't even have to come to court. The ones that tried to murder him, they treat me like I'm the criminal. Sometimes the police abuse their authority, and I found that when I'm there, they tend to be much more respectful.
What do you mean?
Shakala.
Leave him alone, motherfuckers! Get pepper spray! Killed the guy yet? Yeah, tape it up! Tape it up, motherfucker! I was trying to hide what you just did! How you doing, Deputy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good to see you.
Same here.
I heard what he said. He said, I want to live. Apparently, that's not what you guys had on the agenda, you bunch of cowards. Instead of being abusive when I show up, they'll act respectful. They'll say, hello, Mr. Solomon. Anybody that's sitting on the curb or in the back of a car unnecessarily will quickly be released.
So the night of the incident, you were listening to the radio scanner with Laura, and you two were friends. How long have you been friends? And how did you two meet? And how do you spend your time together? Do you see each other socially otherwise, or is it only for these sorts of purposes?
See your point, Miss Weiss. I know you're looking at me, making that funny face, picturing my in your mouth, right? I know you're thinking, Laura's so lucky. Laura's so lucky. She gets to go out with Daniel, go placing the police, you know, keeping everybody safe. No, thank God she's mature enough and smart enough to know better. Because instead of, you know, being out helping people, her and I probably wouldn't be friends anymore, right? Because that's how relationships usually work out. They don't. Me and Laura are still great friends because of her ability to be a professional. There is no otherwise. People that are my friends, they go record the police with me. That's it. Like, we don't go to Magic Mountains on Sundays. We record the police. That's it. So, so when Laura comes to visit me, that's what we do every time she comes. Right after this deposition, I started getting. I might have already been sick, but I continued getting sicker. I thought I was gonna die. Yeah, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, it's like all of a sudden I aged 10 or 20 years overnight. I think it was this deposition that did it to me. Thank God for Laura, because she's the one that comes and picks me up and gets me out there, you know, and takes me to, like, for example, Christopher Bailey. The reason I was there to record it is because Laura made it happen.
You said that you make these recordings to hold police accountable. What do you think would occur in your absence?
Things like what occurred in this case.
What do you mean?
Police violence, being forced to take off items of their clothing at alleged traffic stops when the police can't even come up with an excuse for why they made that stop, or if there's a reason they refuse to tell it. These are things that I've documented for 20 years now. When I'm around, things go much more smoothly for the person that's detained or pulled over.
So is it fair to say that your position is that police would be abusive in any number of ways in your absence?
I don't need you to make statements for me and then try to place them nicely into my mouth, okay? When I'm around, they're much more friendly and polite. When there's a camera around, they tend to be much more friendly and polite.
Would you say that most officers would be abusive in your absence?
No. I'm saying
How would you characterize
I'm saying when I'm around, they're much more friendly and polite. If the person deposing you keeps asking the same question, obviously that's because the answer you gave is not working for them and they're looking for another one. If you're represented, your attorney will step in and say asked and answered to put a stop to that. The last time she asked this question and moves on, it's because she got an answer that is even better than she could have ever expected.
And for those other officers, when you're not around, what do you expect is occurring?
I can't tell you what happens when I'm not there. I can only tell you what I see. Sometimes when I'm approaching, when I arrive, I can't really say what happens when I'm not there. Dozens of cases over the years and innocent victims proves that indeed I can say what happens when I'm not there. It's not difficult. If you listen to their communications and you're honest, it's not hard to put things together.
What did you hear on the police scanner the night of the incident?
Parga, Deputy Parga. You guys probably know him from our videos. He's the one that announced that there was a fight. He's not the one that pulled Christopher over. The stop was made by Kevin Walker and Sean Groves. A deputy shouting, hit him, doing their violence. Someone keyed up the radio to say something, and this happens almost always when they're beating people up. They accidentally transmit messages from the background over the radio because someone's trying to, you know, communicate with dispatch. The gang of deputies is already beating the guy up. There's no need for helicopters and all this backup to come. That's just how it works, because they can't kill someone or beat someone nearly to death and have no conversation on the radio, because to justify this violence, they have to act like they were the ones in fear for their lives. They were the ones being attacked. What else did I hear on the radio? The dispatch and several sergeants kept having to ask for an update. Regardless of how many people were there was radio silence to the point where dispatch kept having to ask. The sergeants that were en route were having to ask, and it still remained silent, eerily silent, until finally, it sounds like Matthew Sino got on the radio, and he said 8 deputies, okay, are still actively involved in a fight. That means there's 8 deputies punching, kicking, striking Bailey with their flashlights, and he's unconscious. They're just kicking him, beating the fuck out of him. The best I can tell, they were trying to kill him. They pulled his pants down, used a taser. They say groin. I don't know what is groin. That's between your balls and your leg. That's your ass, right? There were 7 taser burns. The fire department was cleared to enter long before we arrived.
What did you expect to see when you arrived at the scene?
Somebody either dead or beaten badly.
Do you mean a civilian or a deputy? Why did you expect that?
Because of the amount of time that they claim to be actively involved in a fight.
What were you able to observe?
Then I may have seen the backs of some deputies that were kneeling down. Probably I concluded that that's where the victim was. Despite paramedics being cleared to come in, there was still no paramedics. I observed a group of deputies across the street that were taking selfies. I observed a gentleman, a deputy, who was walking back and forth on the sidewalk, shining his light, looking for cameras so they could confiscate any security cameras if there were any.
How did you know he was looking for cameras, Mr. Solomon?
It's just a common thing that I see when I'm recording. And
did he say he was looking for cameras? Did he say that to you, or are you guessing that that's what he was thinking? I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand exactly what you heard him say. Rather than, what exactly did you hear him say rather than what you thought he was thinking?
You're looking for cameras. Why are you looking for cameras? Because you don't want anyone to see what happened.
Evidence, public record.
You guys are going to steal all the video because you don't want someone to see that you beat a guy to death. Every time I see you looking for cameras, there's a reason. It's because you guys fucked up.
You provided unedited footage to Internal Affairs, though, didn't you?
Drop the mic. I always get a confession out of these dirtbags. Did you hear that, what she just said? We provided the unedited video to Internal Affairs. That's great. Great news. I'm glad you know that, Miss Weiss. I'm sure you also know that means you should be doing 3 years in prison for hiding evidence. Why did Christopher's attorney, why did they have to find our video and contact us through the internet? Because you guys withheld the evidence that you just admitted we gave to you guys. Mr. Weiss, I advise you to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. If you understand your rights, go ahead and continue to incriminate yourself. Great job, Miss Weiss.
What did you do when you first arrived on the scene? And this was immediately when you arrived on the scene, correct? And you couldn't see the plaintiff, Mr. Bailey, could you? So you had no idea what you were walking into, did you?
I was in South Los Angeles, right? He was in Inglewood. What do you think made me drive from South LA, get on the freeway, drive all the way to Inglewood, and drive straight to where he was at, jump out of the vehicle, run over to where he was, shout at the cops, make them get off of his back, save his mother life? Miss Weiss, how did that happen? I didn't know what I was walking into. Laura Shark and I saved his life intentionally. We could have saved more lives than the amount of time we wasted with your stupidity. I had every idea what I was walking into. I was listening to on the radio, actively involved in a fight. That means they're physically hitting, kicking, punching a person. Tasers, any objects they strike with, that's what that means.
So you're equating an officer radio traffic reflecting that they are involved in a fight with a persistent beating of a civilian. Is that right? You ran up to Deputy Duarte, assuming that they had been beating the suspect, but not having seen anything with your own eyes. Is that right?
I didn't run up to her. She was on the opposite sidewalk. Look at this female sheriff running. What is she gonna do? She needs more weapons or what? She came and got a can of mace. They're gonna pepper spray his ass. She came and got a can. The bitch is gonna pepper spray him. How you doing, deputy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good to see you.
Same here. Alright, you go bring tape. Start taping from that pole over there.
You guys gonna tape me in?
And did you call Deputy Duarte and her fellow deputy's mother when you ran up towards them?
I didn't run up towards him.
I'll represent to you that in your video that's posted on YouTube, you ran towards the deputies shouting mother.
They were on the opposite side of the street. Pretty sure if I reviewed the video, that's what it would show.
Cowards?
Absolutely.
Losers?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And why would you say those things to the deputies? This is so frustrating.
Oh, she's back.
I'm back, sorry.
Why would you call them those names?
My name is Miss Weiss. I'm gonna be polite and quiet and stuff, but when you're done, come over here. I want you guys to fuck me in the ass and fuck me in my mouth, okay? Because that's what I do. I suck cops. My name is Olivia Weiss. I suck the cops even when they're murdering people.
How you doing, deputy? I'm doing great. How are you? Good to see you. Same here.
But Mr. Solomon, you didn't observe any conduct, did you?
I thought I was in the middle of an answer.
If we talk over each other, it's very difficult for Ms. Norden. You didn't observe any conduct, did you? And what was said on the radio was that the deputies had been involved in a fight, correct? You did not observe the incident, the fight, did you? Okay, so just to be clear, you hurled this language at them having arrived on the scene based on the conclusions that you made from what you heard on the radio traffic. And anything else? Mr. Solomon, I'm talking about this specific incident. You did not observe this incident. You could not even observe the plaintiff when you arrived and hurled this language at the deputies. Is that right?
Deputies are still actively involved in the fight.
And deputies are still actively involved in the fight. We're gonna actively break that shit up. They're still beating up a dead guy.
I thought you meant the helicopter.
We calmly and casually, we walked eastbound towards the sidewalk, took a look, assessed the situation, and when we realized our suspicions were true, you will observe me taking control of the situation and saving Christopher's life. Leave him alone, mother jerk! No, you ain't done enough. Bitch, he's gonna get pepper spray. What the? You ain't killed the guy yet?
How you doing, deputy? I'm doing great. How are you? Good to see you. Same here.
So is the guy gonna live? Are they still killing him or what?
I'm not a doctor.
You're not a doctor.
Can't see over the bush.
George Floyd was killed with one man's knee, right? There's 3 men's knees on Christopher. I heard what he said. He said, I want to live. Apparently that's not what you guys had on the fucking agenda, you bunch of cowards. All you have to do is look at their body language. Each of them took their weight off of Christopher. That means they knew they were doing something wrong, and it wasn't until I told them that they corrected it. That's what I do, Miss Weiss. Okay? I don't suck cops all the time and criticize somebody for saving someone's life.
Hurry.
What are you gonna do with that tape?
I'm gonna secure the crime scene.
It's not a crime scene.
Walk.
Don't fucking
Step
touch
up.
me, dude.
Step up.
Don't touch me.
Step out, please.
Because I want to document.
Okay, that's fine.
He's giving you a legal order to go down there. Now go.
Legal.
Let's
Just
go.
because you say it doesn't make
Hey,
it legal.
Go tape it. If they
What?
stay inside, they're going to jail. Tape it.
We're going to jail if you want to document what happened.
That's exactly what I said.
I didn't say shit. If you guys are in the right. Oh, God.
It's you guys that are beating people up.
Fuck
Right? It's you
yourself,
guys
man.
being violent, even pushing Laura around.
What about that statement is not correct? That you could not observe the plaintiff and that you did not observe the incident, the altercation that occurred.
By law, they were required to turn over this video to Christopher because he needed it to defend himself. But they spent a year trying to prosecute him for 3 felonies. Those people should be in prison.
I'm simply asking you to tell me whether you observed the plaintiff or the incident.
I'll object that it's vague and ambiguous, it's overbroad. He did not observe, just so that we're clear, you're talking about whether he observed the
Tony,
plaintiff
there's no need
at that
for speaking
moment.
objections. You can make your
It's
objections,
vague,
but
it's vague and overbroad.
you don't need to give speaking objections. If we talk over each other, it's very difficult for Ms. Norden. Do you often call the deputies names like this?
Law firm that you work at, is it all racist? Or is it just you? Does murdering innocent black people accurately reflect your feelings? Evidence that would prove Christopher Bailey's innocence. Does withholding that video, which should be 3 years in prison for you, does that accurately reflect your feelings towards all black people? You might not appreciate my language. These people, believe it or not, I work with them on a daily basis, and most of them I consider friends. So if I'm saying something like that, something bad must have occurred. I do forgive quickly.
Well, you don't.
I do forgive quickly, but while there's a person laying in the street that's still bloody, I'm not going to be very happy about that.
You don't work with them, Mr. Solomon. They're deputies. You're not law enforcement.
Who are you trying to fool, bitch? Let's clarify our roles here, okay? Why were you guys hiding videos? Right? That's what criminals do. Criminals hide evidence. Why were you hiding the videos that Laura and I made from the defendant who you guys murdered? It's crystal clear. You're a criminal, and as a matter of fact, I did prosecute this case, bitch. In the United States, defendants that work for the government, they don't have to go to prison. They just pay money. And in this case, you guys are paying $5 million. That's about as big of a verdict as there is in the history of this country, okay? Right? And I did it by myself while I was asleep in the passenger seat of Laura's car. So eat a dick, Miss Weiss. You just got owned.
Isn't that right?
Objection argumentative.
I mean, who just enforced the law? Listen to yourself, Miss Weiss. A dishonest criminal. And who are you lying to, Miss Weiss? This is very telling. Don't act stupid, bitch. Obviously, I'm the boss.
You said that you work with them on a daily basis.
Yes,
What
I
do you
do.
mean by that? And these individuals that you've called losers, does that accurately reflect your feelings towards them?
Do you feel like you're above the law and you could steal from any black victim and send any black person to prison just because they're black and because you're white? Does that accurately reflect your feelings, Miss Weiss?
Earlier you testified that you sometimes edit out material that is not enjoyable. Is that right? What do you mean by that? Is there any other kind of content that you edit out? I'm just trying to understand what you consider not usable or not enjoyable so I can understand
Okay, I understand.
how these videos reach their final form. What is not in the video?
Okay, so if the video's out of focus, or if it's
I
shaky,
understand that. In
or if the
addition to what
audio
you've
is...
already- Does the revenue on any given video vary? How does it vary? Based on what? What types of videos get the most views on your YouTube channel?
Why are you asking me about my income? We established at the very beginning I'm not making income.
Were you repositioned from the scene?
You're in my crime scene, okay? That's not how it works.
Where's Deputy Ortiz? You need someone that beats up women? Putting their hands on Laura, like telling her where to stand.
You testified earlier that you arrived on the scene after the altercation between Mr. Bailey and the deputies. Is that right?
Objection, facts not in evidence with regards to altercation.
You arrived on the scene after the incident, correct?
The incident was still ongoing.
After the physical altercation, correct? So you wouldn't know whether the plaintiff had struck the officers, would you? And you wouldn't know whether the plaintiff had headbutted the officers, would you? You wouldn't know whether the plaintiff had elbowed an officer in the face, would you? You wouldn't know whether the plaintiff had repeatedly reached for a weapon, would you?
Your arguments are self-defeating. Anybody could tell you what would happen if you reached for a weapon several times, okay? You would be shot dead. The deputies didn't even take the time to search for a weapon. They didn't even check his pockets. Not until he was in the ambulance and Parga did that. Why did you guys hide the video from him? And when his attorney finally found Laura Shark's video, why did you guys immediately drop the charges? Is that because we didn't record any conduct? We didn't observe any conduct? Why was Christopher paid $5 million? Because he was headbutting police officers?
You wouldn't know whether the plaintiff had stated to the deputies that he had a weapon on him, would you?
That's something that would come over the radio if there's any weapon seen, or if they thought there was a weapon. That's one of the first things that would be coming over the radio.
You testified earlier that you've been doing this kind of work for over a decade. I think you'd said since 2008, if I'm recalling that correctly, or 2010. When did you start videotaping the police? 2000, 2001?
Yes.
Were you involved in some kind of incident that made you skeptical of the police or concerned for civil rights?
Many incidents.
And are those incidents related to the lawsuits that you described earlier?
Some of them, most incidents don't result in a lawsuit.
Can you describe the interactions that you've had with police that pertain to your civil rights?
Retaliation, like because they didn't like being recorded. PC 148, but of course, since recording is a protected activity, the case would end up being dropped. The civil lawsuit would follow.
Is that what happened with your cases? Were they dropped?
They tried to prosecute me for PC 148, but they were unable to prove their case. One of the times was they charged me with 2 felonies for trying to file a complaint at the police station and claimed I was eavesdropping because I recorded the conversation that they as well were recording. It wasn't a crime for me to record in the police lobby. Okay.
When you posted thousands of videos of police officers in your community.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever have any concern for the safety of those officers having their images and likeness in these videos posted publicly online?
I don't know there's any reason to be concerned for their safety. I have a First Amendment right. They have no expectation of privacy. And for example, there's a show called Cops that the police have filmed themselves where I don't think there's any concern about their safety.
Do you have any concern for the safety of their families?
I'm not recording, I don't know the police families.
You talked about hearing that deputies were involved in a fight through the radio transmissions. Recall that testimony?
Yes, ma'am. The people in the background yelling, "Hit him!" and a celebration, some kind of party as they're beating him. Well, the one thing you don't hear is you never hear a word from Christopher. The exception is, I think you can hear sometimes when he's being hit, you can hear the air coming out of his lungs and a couple grunts, but he never says one single word. He never says help or stop or ouch or I didn't do anything or please. All the things that you hear in every other police beating coming over the radio, none of those came through. It was silent. Deputy Stewart, he told the chopper, "Thanks for your role." That might not mean anything to you, but it should. If they're canceling the call, they're telling the chopper, "See you later, we don't actually need you," because the call was bogus in the first place. That's one of the things that will always happen when there's a gang beating or when they shoot an unarmed person, and at the end of their the situation, they'll say thanks for your role, and again, that's because the whole call was bullshit. All the people that are coming don't actually need to come. Thanks for your role, you can go back to where you came from. This beating was everything you thought it was, and anyways, best of luck to you and best of luck to Christopher.